the second AFC Divisional matchup that we have the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Houston Texans. Now, before I get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Other NFL videos and college football videos daily. So, the Houston Texans, last week they beat the Buffalo Bills and a come-from-behind victory. Game went into overtime. Deshaun Watson was looking like a magician for the Houston Texans and helped the Houston Texans get over the hump of the Buffalo Bills in the first round of the playoffs. Now, you're going to be facing the Kansas City Chiefs team in this game on the road that's fully healthy and fully rested. And these teams played each other before early on in the NFL regular season when Houston came on top. And a big reason why Houston came on top was not for the reason you expect. It wasn't because of Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson actually played one of his worst games of the season against Kansas City the first time he matched up. He had 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. But a big reason why Houston was able to win the game was because they had success throwing the football and they were able to protect Deshaun Watson. And this matchup, the question is, can Houston replicate that same formula? Because that offensive line for Houston was god-awful. Deshaun Watson got sacked 7 times last week. Buffalo's defensive line, their front 7 was just too much for the Houston Texans offensive line to handle. And normally, when you see a quarterback get sacked 7 times, you normally see their team on the losing end. But Deshaun Watson was just so magical. And just, listen, if you didn't think Deshaun Watson was a superstar before you saw the Buffalo Bills game, you definitely know that he is a superstar now. I mean, the dude had 2 oncoming blitzers who weren't blocked by anybody on Buffalo, and he just spun out of 2 unblocked blitzers, extending the play, and helped Houston win the game in overtime. I've never seen a play like that ever in all my years watching football. So, if you're Kansas City, what do you have to do to stop Houston? Well, I think it's pretty simple. Get pressure on Deshaun Watson and get him down to the ground. We saw Buffalo do that in the first half when they got out to a 16-0 lead and they were up by 16 points. And Buffalo struggled to move the ball down the field simply for the fact that Deshaun Watson had no time to throw the football. And also the run game wasn't really that effective neither unless you take Deshaun Watson's ability to scramble. So if you're Kansas City, you got to be able to get pressure up front with guys like Frank Clark and the guys you have on your defensive line. Those guys had to be able to show up in this game because a big reason why Kansas City lost the first go-around was because Deshaun Watson had all day to throw and they didn't get no hands on Deshaun Watson. I don't think Deshaun Watson even touched the ground once in that Kansas City Chiefs game. The Kansas City Chiefs had 0 sacks in that first matchup versus the Houston Texans. So this Houston Texans offensive line, we saw how vulnerable they are against the Buffalo Bills. Now, Kansas City's front 7 isn't as good as Buffalo's, but Buffalo's sacks didn't all come from just rushing and getting pressure on Deshaun Watson. They all came from cover sacks as well. So, Tre'Davious White absolutely shut down the Andre Hopkins for the first half of that game. So, if you're in Kansas City, this secondary has to be able to help out that defensive line and shut down these wide receivers. Now, for Houston, it is how can you slow down this Kansas City Chiefs offense with Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Mecole Hardman and LaShawn McCoy and everybody. Well, here's what you got to do. You got to limit the big plays. Kansas City lives on chunk plays. They get a lot of big chunk plays. They like to push the ball downfield. They get a lot of big plays. I noticed when you watch Kansas City play, they always have at least 5 or 6 plays throughout the games that are chunk plays that go for at least 30 to 40 yards. They do this better than any team in the NFL at creating and getting big plays. So if you're Houston, you got to keep Kansas City from getting those big chunk plays. Force Patrick Mahomes to check the ball down, take what the defense gives him. And Romeo Crennel, he's a pretty good defensive coordinator. This Houston Texans defense has been a lot worse in the past, but this is actually a pretty good defense. They actually had a pretty good game versus the Buffalo Bills. The question is, can this Houston Texans defense become the same defense that they were last week versus the Buffalo Bills? Because it's a way bigger difference between the Buffalo Bills offense and the Kansas City Chiefs offense. The Buffalo Bills didn't have a true #1 wide receiver. The Buffalo Bills didn't really have a lead quarterback like the Kansas City Chiefs do with Patrick Mahomes. So, when you add that, and you look at Kansas City's offensive line, which is pretty good as well, and you add in the big play threats that they have, the wide receiver position with Mecole Hardman, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, DeMarcus Robinson. Then you also got to worry about Travis Kelce. So this is a lot of weapons for this Houston Texans defense to defend. So the question is, can you force some turnovers? I think Houston's defense is going to have to be able to force some turnovers, get the ball back to Deshaun Watson in this offense if they want to be able to win this game. Now, they did force a turnover the first go-around when they played. Patrick Mahomes had 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. So if you're Houston, you got to be able to get the ball back to your offense. And this defense, I don't think this Houston Texans defense is good enough that they're just going to come in here and they're just going to shut down the Kansas City Chiefs offense completely. I think Houston's defense, what you got to emphasize if you're Romeo Crennel is you got to emphasize key stops and turnovers. That's what you got to do, because listen, if you're Houston, right, here's that philosophy you have to be. You have to be like, listen, Kansas City can get all the yards they want to get, but when they get inside the red zone, they're not going to score on us. I think that's when it's going to come down to if Houston's defense is going to be good enough to score or good enough to stop Kansas City's offense when they get inside the 20. Because I don't think Houston's defense is good enough to keep Kansas City from moving the ball down the field. I don't think Houston's defense is going to force Kansas City to go 3 and out the whole entire quarter or something like that. And I'm not expecting Houston's defense to get a lot of stops in this game. But what I can expect out of Houston is that this defense, when they get inside the red zone, they tighten down and keep Kansas City from punching it in. So if you Houston, I think the most important thing that you have to be able to do on defense is be able to stop Kansas City, hold them to field goals when they get inside the 20, and try to force a couple of turnovers. If Kansas City turns the ball over at least 2 times, I think Houston has a pretty good chance of winning this football game. Now, Houston on the offensive side of the ball, if you're Kansas City, how you going to slow down Deshaun Watson? I said this earlier, is getting pressure on Deshaun Watson. We saw Buffalo did it, but in the second half, Houston's offensive line was able to buck him down, and although they still didn't really play that great, they played good enough to help Houston win the game. So if you're Kansas City, you got to be able to get pressure on Deshaun Watson the whole entire game. Keep him in the pocket. Don't let him do all the magical things he was doing against Buffalo. Keep him inside the pocket. Force him to throw inside the pocket with a closing pocket, no time to throw, a collapsing pocket, and get him down to the ground. Get him on the ground. Because listen, last time we saw Houston play, they had a good time running the football. And Deshaun Watson was also terrorizing their defense, although he did throw 2 interceptions. So if you're in Kansas City, you got to be able to get pressure on Deshaun Watson the first go around. Because the last time they played Kansas City, I don't even think Kansas City had 1 sack when they played this Houston Texans team the first go around in the regular season. So if you're in Kansas City, you got to be able to get pressure on Deshaun Watson. And it doesn't just have to be just based off your pass rush. It can also be based on your secondary. Now, Kansas City's defense, their secondary particularly, has played very, very well. So if you're Kansas City, not only, you don't just have, a lot of people seem to fail to realize this, but it's other ways to get sacks other than just having great pass rushers. You can get sacks by having a great secondary, by having your secondary shut down these wide receivers. And we saw Buffalo did it. Not every single one of Buffalo's sacks was just based on their pass rush. They also got a lot of cover sacks as well. So if you're Kansas City, if your secondary plays good enough, you can get some cover sacks as well. No wide receivers open. Deshaun Watson's forced to tuck in and run, and he gets sacked behind the line of scrimmage. So, I mean, this game I feel can go either way. But I'm going to take Kansas City to win this game, and here's why. Houston's defense, I don't trust Houston's defense, right? Now, I know Houston won the first go-around, but, I mean, the offensive line had a very good 3-week stretch during that time they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, this offensive line surrendered 7 sacks last week versus the Buffalo Bills. And although the Kansas City Chiefs aren't going to be able to get after Deshaun Watson like how Buffalo was, because Kansas City's front 7 is not talented as Buffalo's, I still think Kansas City is going to be able to get enough pressure on Deshaun Watson to affect the Houston Texans offense. And also, I think Kansas City, they should be able to stop the run in this game. And if they're not able to stop the run, then Houston probably will have a good chance of winning this game. But I'm just going to take Kansas City to win this game because I think Kansas City is the better team in this game. And I just think that Kansas City, they're not going to lose to the Houston Texans twice. This Houston Texans defense is not good. And although it did look pretty good versus the Buffalo Bills, I know the Texans fans are going to do we shut down the Buffalo Bills offense. Listen, you're not facing the Buffalo Bills offense. The Buffalo Bills didn't have a true #1 wide receiver, and you were playing Josh Allen. You're playing Patrick Mahomes, one of the best young quarterbacks in the game. You got to defend Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman. I don't need to keep on naming the names that you got to defend, but I don't think Houston's going to be able to do it. And Houston's defense has been inconsistent all season. Listen, Houston's defense will beat up on some of the average and below average quarterbacks, but they're not going to eat up on some of these elite quarterbacks, right? You did it to Tom Brady, who their offense wasn't good, but you're going to be able to do it to Patrick Mahomes second go around. And even the second go around, Patrick Mahomes still had a field there against this Houston Texans defense. So I'm going to take Kansas City to win this game. I think Kansas City wins this game 35-24 is my final score prediction. Because here's why. Kansas City's defense can get some stops. I don't think Houston's defense is good enough that they can get some key stops and get their offense back on the field. So I'm going to take Kansas City to win this game. Let me know who you guys have win this game down in the comment section down below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content. And thanks for watching.